All right, let's dive right into this explainer on Efim Bogoljubov. If you follow chess history, you already know he's one of the absolute most compelling what-if figures we've ever seen. We're talking about a world-class player who had to navigate some of the most turbulent decades of the 20th century. Today, we're going to see how his life was defined by two completely opposing forces, this brilliant, almost boundless chess imagination, and a relentless, exhausting struggle for just basic stability. If you've ever wondered how geopolitical chaos actually impacts individual genius, well, you're in the exact right place.
You've probably heard his legendary kind of tongue-in-cheek mantra, "When I am white, I win because I am white. When I am black, I win because I am Bogoljubov." Now, at first glance, some might look at that and just see pure, unfiltered arrogance, right? But if you actually frame it through the lens of his life, it's a masterclass in what I like to call weaponized optimism. It shows a guy who genuinely believed in his own creative powers, literally regardless of the position he was in. And honestly, it's that exact mindset that allowed him to survive some incredibly difficult situations.
Section 1. Prisoner of World War I, Forged in the Crucible.
So picture the sheer unpredictability of this era. You're at the absolute top of your game. You're playing in this highly prestigious tournament in Mannheim, Germany in 1914, and suddenly World War I just breaks out around you. Because of his background, Bogoljubov, along with several other Russian masters, including the legendary Alexander Alekhine, was abruptly interned as a prisoner of war. Literally just like that, the chessboard was replaced by a prison camp.
But here is the amazing part. Instead of letting his skills just rot away in confinement, he responded by playing hours and hours of blindfold chess with his fellow inmate, Alekhine. He took a miserable, incredibly restrictive situation and turned it into a literal crucible for growth. He was honing his imagination when he couldn't even see a physical board. And after the war? Actually, instead of returning to his Russian roots, he found a silver lining. He stayed in Germany, got married, started a family, and completely pivoted the entire trajectory of his life.
Section 2. Rise to the top. Conquering the 1920s.
Now, jumping into this next decade, his dominance was just undeniable. Look at 1925 at the Moscow International. He didn't just win, he finished ahead of Emmanuel Lasker and Jose Raul Capablanca. Let that sink in. Then, fast forward 3 years to 1928 at Bad Kissingen, and he does it again, securing another massive victory ahead of Capablanca. These absolutely were not flukes. This was Bogoljubov catapulting over legendary world champions and announcing himself as a definitive powerhouse.
So naturally, these massive victories officially cemented his status as the primary challenger to the reigning world champion. And who was that champion? Yep, none other than his old prisoner of war companion, Alexander Alekhine. The two guys who were once playing blindfold chess in a German internment camp were now sitting across from each other at the absolute pinnacle of the chess world. I mean, you really can't write a better narrative arc than that.
But I want you to imagine something for a second. Really try to put yourself in his shoes. What would you do if your professional peak, the exact moment you finally reached the top of your field, coincided directly with the total collapse of the global order around you?
Section 3. A Pawn Between Empires. The Scylla and Charybdis Struggle.
So Bogoljubov's life essentially turns into this impossible geopolitical balancing act. He literally became a pawn trapped between two hostile powers, a classic Scylla and Charybdis struggle. Looking objectively at the historical record from our sources, we see he was completely alienated on both sides. On one hand, the Soviet Union labeled him a renegade because he chose to live in Germany after his WW1 internment. But then conversely, in Nazi Germany, he faced systemic discrimination precisely because of his Eastern European background. He had absolutely no safe harbor.
Yet, despite this incredible, crushing geopolitical pressure coming at him from all sides, that weaponized optimism pushed him forward. He still managed to play Alekhine for the world title not once, but twice, in 1929 and 1934. And yeah, while the history books note that he lost both of those grueling matches to his former cellmate, he never lost his imaginative flair. He remained one of the most prolific and highly respected players of his generation, flat out refusing to let the chaos outside the board dictate his play on it.
Ultimately, though, you just can't outmaneuver global conflicts forever, right? His final years were marked by a pretty profound professional tragedy. Cold War-era politics and systemic boycotts ended up denying this brilliant professional his rightful place in global tournaments. The changing world simply wouldn't let him compete on the stages that his talent so clearly deserved.
Section 4. The Legacy of Imagination. Bogoljubov imagined.
Look at how his unique genius was actually viewed by his peers. There's this great saying, Capablanca created, Alekhine fought,
Lasker mused while Bogoljubov imagined. I love that. He was so well known for these sparkling combinations and sacrifices. He loved playing with long-term piece activity, really valuing the dynamic potential of his pieces over just grabbing immediate short-term material gain. He was seeing possibilities on the board that other guys simply couldn't visualize.
For a lot of us, his most lasting theoretical contribution is, of course, the Bogo-Indian Defense. The fact that this opening is still utilized by top-tier players in modern tournaments today is just a massive testament to his deep, highly creative understanding of the game. His ideas literally outlived the empires that tried to restrict him.
And you know what's truly inspiring? Even after his professional decline on the world stage, when all those political boycotts kept him from competing, his trademark optimism just endured. He spent his final years shifting his focus, becoming a completely dedicated teacher and mentor to the next generation, specifically shaping future German grandmasters. He passed all that incredible imagination down to others.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. We've seen the undeniable brilliance, the theoretical contributions, and that legendary weaponized optimism. But you really have to ask, how high could this world-class mind have soared if his life hadn't been so tragically restricted by the turbulent 20th century? It's a fascinating question about a truly fascinating guy. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and keep exploring the board.